make it to this session on Sunday morning. That goes to show that you are serious about this aspect. Not that you are struggling. I'm sure all of you might be managing your time well, but the keen interest that you have, the learning attitude that you have is all that makes the difference. So I have put together a couple of slides. I know these days it is all about the screen, right? And some days back, I was attending a HR conclave, and one of the head of HR of some product company said that the younger generation, though we call them the generation Z or the millennials, he says, I call them screenagers, because they are born into this world with screens everywhere, be it a tab, phone, or laptops, right? So I have tried to limit the PPTs with just some images. You don't have to read anything. And please use the raise hand option. I think we have it in Zoom if you feel you need to stop me anywhere. Or after I'm through, I'll try and give a substantial amount of time for you to ask any questions you have. So the topic is all about, if you have to imagine yourself like this person who has a lot of time at hand and is happy, content with the activities the person is doing, and nothing around this person. He is very much focused in what is to be done. Now, in reality, this is how all of us are. I mean, when you were a student, I mean, I don't know your profile of the participants here, but when you were a student, probably you got, greater grades and you were able to manage a lot. But now you are into the workforce and suddenly you realize it is not just your individual part, but if you are married, you have to manage your family, you have to manage your career, and if you do certain things for community, like Sept is trying to help the community by organizing these things, you have to do that. And for some of us who have a certain strong belief system, then we also try and do something on that end as well. So how do we manage a lot of these things? Sorry. Okay, I think somebody has to mute themselves. Okay, I think Asif Saab, you need to go on mute. Can I mute them? I think, yeah, I can mute them. All right. Great. So when we are in a situation like this, where we have so much and there is only 24 hours in the day, and you have to manage your sleep and you have to manage a lot of stuff, that is where we struggle. And I think you have joined this session to kind of figure out, okay, how do I manage all of this, right? Now, first and foremost, I want to call out that this whole time stuff, I think human beings are the only species that can think about future. And if you look at the other species, probably they didn't understand this construct of time, because of which they have not been able to reach to where we are, right? However, when you hear somebody talks about multitasking, right? Probably you need to start questioning that part of multitasking, because human brain cannot multitask. Yes, there are conscious levels, there are subconscious levels, there are unconscious levels. But when it comes to consciousness, you can only focus on one bit at a time. So for instance, now if you're talking on the phone and you have to also draft an email. I'm sure if you have tried it, you might be able to manage it, but chances of having errors in the email are high. So there is a concept called shifting time. When you're doing something, then you shift to the other thing. You can't be doing two things at a time. So this myth about multitasking, if you ever feel that I am so good at multitasking, please come out of that, because our brains don't work in that fashion. Okay, so that is the first point I want to tell you when it comes to managing your time. The only success that you will get through time is with focus. I mean, your quality of your output, whatever you are doing, the quality of your relationship when you are investing your time in it, or the quality of your results, if you're studying, will be higher if your focus is right. And I'll show you how. So how do you focus? It's pretty simple, right? I mean, when you look at even the visual part, now, though my focus is on the screen, I could figure out the different chairs and the other stuff which are there in my house. And I'm sitting right next to the balcony. I can see children playing there as well, right? Which is there. I mean, that is for our survival, and that is why we are how we are, right? However, if you want to manage, then you need to allocate time for different areas. So when you have to draft an email, you have to only draft it. When you have to clear out the clutter, you have to do that. When you're talking, just talk. I think it's a no-brainer where some of you know how to drive, then it says that please don't talk on the phone and drive, because you need focus while you're driving, right? So there has to be different slots for you to take care of so many things that have piled up in your life or you have taken over. Now you must be thinking like, okay, all of this is fine, but what about the strategies part, right? Before we go into the strategies, I think this is the biggest distraction that we have in our life, and you all must be aware, the phone. Now, while I'm talking to you, probably your phone rang, or there was a notification on your phone, or it beeped, or there was a vibration, and you can easily get distracted. Now, please understand, we live in an economy where attention is what everybody is after. Be it the organizations or your social media. And I don't know how many of you have tried it, but please try to switch off that notification, because you might have a notification for your emails. If you're working, your company emails can be configured on your phone. You will get an email, and then you will get a notification on your phone. If you have any application, I mean, these days, everything is through apps. As simple as your internet connection at home. If you are making payments or anything through the app, unnecessarily it will give you some promotional notification, right? So the first and foremost is get rid of those notifications. And I will tell you how easy you will find life to be without those notifications. Now you might question like, okay, fine, apps which are not useful, we can. But how about the communication that we are having these days? We are communicating a lot via WhatsApp. Should I keep notification on WhatsApp? There as well. Now just think, I guess we are so used to sending messages these days that the urgency of it, nobody is questioning. So I tell my team members or my family members that if you send me a message, I kind of take it for granted that that is not urgent. Because if that was urgent, you would have called. For me, a message is something that I can respond at leisure, right? So use your phone when you have to communicate, when you want to really get in touch with somebody, but don't be a slave to the phone where you feel that you are in control, but you are actually not in control. Your phone and the technology is controlling you. So try it for a couple of days and see how much time you will get in that 24-hour window, right? So these are some of the distractions. And while there are a lot of other distractions, I mean, an example is if you have picked up on certain goals which are not going to add any value in your life, then that is a distraction as well. But in the current times, I thought I'll bring about the distraction, which is our phone. And also, if you are working and you have the emails, I mean, I don't know what are the different platforms that you use, but if you get an email on the system tray at the bottom, you will get an icon that you received an email. And I have seen, and I am also a victim of that I have picked up that email and I realized that I get distracted. Now, like how I'm getting distracted. Somebody is trying to call me and I have to go and check where this call is coming from. Okay. All right. So this was a distraction, right? So before coming on to this meeting, this webinar, I should have put myself on mute because it rang. It didn't vibrate, but it rang. So you will need to figure out what are the distractions in your life at this point in time. Probably sit down and observe what has happened in the last 1 week. And if there was something that you wanted to do, you didn't do it, what is the primary reason you didn't do it? Then you might be able to come up with a list of things which served as a distraction. Okay. For some reason, I'm unable to mute him. Okay. All right. Okay. So in the description, it also says what are some of the strategies, right? I have just listed down 3 strategies because I want to give more time for you. And I think the audience is also pretty less. So if there are any questions, we'll take it and spend more time on that. Simple strategy is saying no. For something which is not going to add any value, something which is not of any importance to you, you can go ahead and say no. Like for instance, I was asked or requested to take this session a week back. I said, not possible. And yesterday, I think when somebody joins, it automatically puts them. Okay. So yesterday I spoke at IIM Jammu, and the college authorities, when they reached out to me to be a part of a panel, just 2 days before the event, they said, can you be a moderator? Because the way they manage is there won't be anybody from the college who will moderate it, but the panel, 5, 6 people who are on the call have to moderate that session. So I said no, because if they would have requested this probably a week back, I would have thought through. So in spite of signing up that yes, I'll come, a request came wherein I was like, okay, I'm going to
designed around you.
So I don't know who is okay. So I'm going to make a fool out of myself. So I said absolutely no. So in your life as well, you will get a lot of requests. That request can be from your friends, family members, your boss, your team members. It can be anybody in the society where some requests will come to you. So you need to muster that strength to say no. And the easy way to say no is by giving them an alternative. As simple as that. And every time I have said no, I did not regret, because I know that if I would have accepted it, I would have burned myself in terms of not giving time to the areas that I need to dedicate my time. So if you have the habit of saying yes, think what is it that you're saying yes to, right? So that is one. Second is something called working backward. I'm sure some of you might be working in organizations and you have projects, and project definition itself is something which has a discrete start and an end. And successful projects are the ones where you work backwards. As you can see, if this is your result, whatever that is, if your goal is to reduce weight, let's say, right, that is your result. So what is it that you have to do at different periods? You have to put in boxes and work backwards. And I think in a lot of areas we do that. But the ones that require a lot of focus is where we leave it. That is where it brings me to the third strategy, which is the Eisenhower matrix. I don't know how many of you heard about this, but he was the president of United States, and he came up with this, and it was pretty popular. You just have to draw a horizontal line and a vertical line and create these 4 quadrants. And as you can see, it is so simple. The firefighting scenario that we always come across is this urgent and important part, because everything is kind of needs to be done right now. So that firefighting mode, I don't have to elaborate, you all know. So there is no other way than to do it, because it is important and it has become urgent. The other bit is important in nature, but it is not urgent. Now you have to decide whether to do it now or not. And the people who have decided to do it now are the ones who will ensure that this doesn't go and sit in this quadrant and become urgent and important. And I don't know, again, as I said, it would have helped me to know the profile of my audience. Like yesterday, I was talking to students, so I could relate. But if I take an example of the student community, then all of us have been students, and we have always deferred our revision, our preparation for exam at the end, right? And the result of it is shown. And our professors and lecturers have been telling us that do it right now. I mean, don't wait for your exam. We know it, but we still don't do it. So in my other slide, I'll tell you why we don't do it. But here, anything which is not urgent, because exams are not urgent. You know, your exams are like 6 months down the line. But if you start preparing for it, exam time, it's a cakewalk. Then there is something which is not important and also obviously not urgent. Then you can start delegating it. Now, there are different school of thoughts here. People say that, okay, in order to delegate, I have to be in a leadership position, or I should be a lead to delegate. Well, I don't think so, because there is upward delegation also. It's not always downward delegation, but upward delegation too. As long as you make it very clear to the person as to why you are unable to do it, and make the person feel important, that they have the right skills and attitude and motivation to do it, your job will be done. So that way, this will help you to focus, because here you can't focus. Here you're just trying to finish that off. This requires a bit of planning. This will help you come back to where your focus needs to be. Then the last one is the no-brainer. Something which is not urgent, which is not important, just drop it. Just delete it. Now, I would say this social media part, right? If somebody is constantly on social media trying to read what's happening in other people's life, and when I say social media, let me stick to LinkedIn only. Okay, because this whole discussion is with professionals, I believe. So I see a lot of people on LinkedIn just spending like maybe 3-4 hours in a day, constantly logging in, trying to check what's happening. That is absolutely not urgent, and it is not important. Because in that time frame, you could have done something productive, right? So it's easy, right? Do, decide, delegate, delete. If you can't remember the whole part, if you remember these 4 Ds and put a quadrant like this, then you can figure out. I mean, try it on a Monday. I think tomorrow is Monday. So when you start your work, probably for the day, the activities that you have to do, just put it under these 4 categories and see if one day at least will be a little better than the rest of the days that you have at work. All right. So just 3 things that I wanted to tell you, which you might have heard a lot about the time management bit in the previous sessions, or you must have read. There has to be a discipline without which it is not possible. Not just in this, anywhere else, discipline is what is required. And this 4 blocker that you have just seen will help you prioritize. And once you prioritize, it requires your focus. Now, I told you I'll just deep dive a little into the brain part as to why we don't do it. Why is it that we fall back into the trap of we have put up a plan, but we don't reach the goal, or we don't reach the end result of that goal? That is thanks to our neurons. Now, in this picture, you see here fire together. So let's say your neuron is, if you have to talk about a behavior, let's talk about a behavior. You have a certain behavior, and this is one behavior, and this is another behavior. So the more you do it, you see here, they got added, they became stronger. And then it went on. So when our neurons fire together, they are wired together. That is what is happening. Right? Now I want to draw your attention to this part. You see a break, because this neuron is not firing with these neurons. Whereas here, it started off, but this one picked up, and there is a strong connection between these two, but this broke because it did not fire with this one. So what we say is, when you don't use it, you lose it. That's how the neuroscientists will talk about. So when we talk about discipline, this is what it is. You will start off with a right intention. You put a plan together, but unfortunately it will not have any result because you have gone back to your routine. We all have a routine in our life, and you'll go back. So what happens, whatever you had earlier will become stronger. Like for instance, procrastination example. You keep on procrastinating, it will become a habit in your life that you will become a procrastinator. And as you can see a little icon here, with time. So over a period of time, you will become that. And if you want to get better at something, then you need to realize what is that behavior that I am demonstrating. If my current behavior is positive and it will help me reach to a certain point, that the one that I want, then you need to continue that behavior. But if you feel that, okay, I think this behavior is not going to get me there, you have to drop it. You have to continuously stop doing what you have been doing, and you will be surprised at how you get better at it. And there are numerous examples that we can take. I mean, somebody who is interested in gymming will know that, just like your muscle, right? You have to continuously do repetition, and you have to continuously go. Just like that, our behaviors are also something that translate into what we become, right? So this all requires some bit of thinking. You have to sit down and think. And once you become, a little senior, or when you grow in your role in the organization or in the society, or the lifespan development of human beings, right? You will start questioning a lot of things, and then your time will be sought by a lot of people. And if you don't manage well, somewhere it will have an impact. Again, it's a balancing act, right? I think I've taken like close to half an hour. And as I said, I would like to give more time for questions from all of you than just a PowerPoint presentation. So I've set the context now. Now I'll stop my share and then open up for questions. There are only 32 participants. So anybody who wants to ask a question, either you can type it in or you can raise a hand and we can talk about it. Okay.
Hello, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Jamil. As you said, fire. Fire in the sense you mean to say be very positive, optimistic most of the time and start focusing on the job or the always think of the destination you would like to reach. Is this something we need to have a kind of this thing?
Sure, good question. So, okay, so destination. When we say destination, I'm just going to slightly change that word to a goal. Okay, because goal can also be translated into a destination. So what we say is your eyes needs to be focused on the goal, right? So just take an example of football field. I hope everybody understands the game football. So there is a goal post, and the objective is to get the ball inside the net, the goal, right? So a footballer will always have the sight towards the goal. They'll not run backwards to their own goal post. They'll run towards that, right? But just looking at the goal post, will they get there? Highly unlikely. What they concentrate is on ensuring that the ball is with them. And they apply the strategies in terms of how are they going to pass, who are they going to pass, and how quickly they'll have to run, when do they have to slow down, and all that stuff. So every sportsman, I think, focuses on the current state and the process to get their whatever, whether it's a ball or the javelin, whatever. They concentrate on the process and not the goal. While they have it, their view is towards the goal, but they concentrate on the process. And the more they concentrate on the process, the better they get at it. I think sportsmen or sportswomen are a perfect example of how one reaches their goal. They just don't appear on the day of the finals or the Olympics, right? They do a lot of hard work. So they know that in order for them to get there, they have to repeat. There is a routine they have to follow. I hope that answers the question, Hafsa.
I have one more question. Like
Yeah.
as you said, WhatsApp and all, like it's a distraction. Let's say if we are into services where we are managing a group of 10 service engineers. Now we are totally dependent on WhatsApp if they have completed their calls or not. This thing. I'm just a practical this thing. So
Yeah.
it would be very difficult for us to call, or it's we are so used to that. Without that, certain things may not work out.
Yeah. Okay. So Jamil, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jamil.
I'm to you as Hafsa because the display name is that. Sorry about that.
That's my daughter. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. So Jamil, yes. I mean, if your job demands that you have to, or for easy collaboration with your teams, you are using WhatsApp as a platform, then you have to just look at your team's message. If you are working in that, let's say your shift is morning 9 to 6 is your shift, and you are using WhatsApp to communicate with the team, then if a message comes, then you have to only check your team's message and not to go and read the other messages that have come. But in the first place, I mean, I am not sure why we would use WhatsApp when it is work-related stuff, because most of the time you are in front of your computer, especially in the COVID world, right? We are all working from home and we have computers in front of us. And Microsoft Teams allows you to create, I don't know if Microsoft Teams is used, but it allows you to create channels and messages are coming there. I don't know the rationale of using WhatsApp for work-related stuff. Right? I mean, I would use WhatsApp with the team for communicating something which is not urgent. And if there is no opportunity for you to stop using WhatsApp for work-related stuff, then probably a communication to the team that, okay, we will use WhatsApp only for non-critical stuff. For critical stuff, I mean, if anything goes down in production, then you are available online. Why is it that you need a medium which is outside of your work? We don't work through our phone, we work through our computers or laptops.
Yeah, agree.
So as I said, we have to start saying no. So in this scenario, you can use that first strategy of saying no and agreeing to be a part of the WhatsApp group for non-critical work. Yeah. All right.
I have one
Yes.
more. If some others are not asking, if I can be permitted.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you highlight more on conscious and subconscious mind? Like, as you said, certain things on subconscious related. Is there any way where we can control it, or subconscious process?
Very interesting question. So, I mean, for others who might be struggling with, okay, what are these concepts that we are talking about? I'll just help with a very common example that we use in the psychology world, which is called the iceberg example. So when you look at the iceberg, right, you will see a lot of ice above the surface, but below the surface, there's a larger portion of the ice. I mean, people who might have seen Titanic would know how the Titanic went down because of an iceberg, right? So what is visible is the conscious part. What is not visible is your subconscious as well as the unconscious. Now, how do we address our subconscious or unconscious? Well, it is not in one setting, or it's not very easy. It's a pretty lengthy process. Now, what is it that you want to address? And this goes into, a psychoanalysis part where you are doing certain behaviors which you don't have any control over. Then you would need some professional help. For example, let's say you are shouting at somebody because you are unable to deal with your own emotions. Then I don't think so you alone can solve that by yourself. I mean, you can try certain strategies like breathing techniques or labeling what you are feeling and all that. But if it is, chronic in nature, then you need help, because the therapist will ask you a lot of questions and will help you navigate and go a little deeper to your experiences that you had when you were growing up. What is it that you got exposed to, and how your neurons, which are at a subconscious level or unconscious level, developed, which is changing or which is coming into your conscious stuff without you realizing it. So anything to do with your subconscious or unconscious, you yourself, I don't think so, can do it without the help of a therapist. And it is not always about, issues. I mean, these days, people are experimenting in order for them to get better at something. And they are realizing that certain things are stopping them in getting there. They are taking help from therapists and counselors as well. So, Jamil, it's not an easy thing to address something which is not conscious.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thanks.
All right. So Aman Khan has put a question. Apparently, this session was notified on my WhatsApp a while ago and I joined. It's really super difficult to figure out what notifications we allow, but we need to take hard steps. Right. So Aman, notifications will help. Again, as I said, what are the applications on which you want to have the notifications? Right. So WhatsApp, if it is important, you can't live without, then we can't help it. And again, depending on the time, right? So probably on a weekend, yeah, you can have your notifications on. When you're working on something where you really have to focus, you can switch off. And you have seen a classic example of I also failing, where I have not put my phone on silent before coming to this session, right? Okay. Zayed is asking, I wanted to ask whether hobbies, for example, dancing, drawing, gaming, have fallen into the delete quadrant. Very good question, Zayed. And this is primarily why I wanted to limit the PPTs only for some time and have a more of a question and answer. Well, hobbies are important. And I would not say put them into the delete quadrant and don't do it. Because especially in the current scenario, while in the last 18 odd months, we have started to live with COVID or not going to offices, not going to schools, colleges and all. But still, mental health and mental well-being is something that is often discussed in organizations. It has become one of the important dimensions, which especially for HR teams about this. And hobbies, anything that you have, needs to continue, because as I said, you can't always be just working on some goal and not take some time out, because that break is required. Even if you look at your college, I don't think so you will have your classes from the time you enter into college until you come out of college. There are breaks in between. And that's primarily because our cognitive abilities are limited. Yes, we have been able to reach to this point where we are landing on moon phone and etc. But still, at a stretch, we can't do anything. We need those little breaks. So don't delete it. But now let me just say gaming, okay. So out of that, dancing and drawing is okay, but gaming is somewhere, at least I would say that it can't be your hobby. It can be a recreational activity for a certain time. But unfortunately, the way the gaming industry works and the way the designers have come up with so many interactive games these days. I mean, if you start reading about games, earlier it was about, level wise, you used to go from one level to second and all. But this time it is like the entire world has become into one and you are playing against each other. And in a game, all your senses or your focus needs to be there, right? And when you are so engrossed in it, the more you play, the more neurons, the one that I was talking about, are getting formed. And that leads to addiction. And I'm sure none of us here want to be addicted to anything. Because the moment you get addicted, you will start completely ignoring the important things in your life, which needs to be focused, because you are completely addicted. So I wouldn't say gaming should be your hobby. Now, that's my perspective. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Because, it is all connected. Now, while we are talking about the time bit, but as you can see, the questions are around goals. So there is a separate session on goal setting and how to achieve your goals. What is the process that you need to follow, right? Then we spoke about the addiction piece. So it's very difficult to stitch everything together in one session. And that is why I am requesting, if there is anything that you are struggling with at this point in time, or you feel that, okay, I don't have an answer to this, or what is it that I can learn from what other people have done, and probably I will give it a try. So that is what we need to do here. And don't worry, nobody knows anybody here.
I have one more question.
Sure.
See, normally we have a habit of making some affirmations that I will be doing so and so in 3 months or a 6 months time or a year's time. This thing, though we write also, right, and we sign up also. So and so date I have made a affirmation and this thing. Sometimes normally we see that we are not able to actually really follow the affirmations, and we are not able to reach. So how can we redraft, and what is the time frame, like we should rethink once in a fortnight, or once we are not reaching, like maybe a goal or this thing, maybe a lot of limitations might be there, or we may ourselves not putting some time or this thing. How we can get remain motivated ourselves once we have laid down some this thing.
Good question, Jamil. Thank you. And I'm sure others will be able to relate to that. So now coming to the affirmation bit. Now, affirmations, again, in the psychological world, we have two types of affirmations. One is a positive affirmation and the other one is negative affirmation. So now, if you take this part, there is something that will emerge out of it. So affirmation is something that you keep telling yourself about, the kind of self-talk that you do. okay, you have set a goal and you are like, okay, I'm going to reach my goal. And as I think you mentioned, Jamil, about the positivity part. So the positive affirmations are the ones where you are confident and you are taking certain actions and it becomes a loop. It's a positive affirmation loop and you will start doing those things. Now your self-talk, if it is negative affirmation, wherein, oh, I have so many challenges, I don't think so I'll be able to meet my goals. Oh, I don't know whether I should be pursuing this. So if it is a negative affirmation, again, that's a loop and it will keep you away from your goal. So your affirmation needs to be positive. That is one. Second, when you said, okay, fortnightly, so basically what we are saying is, when do we take a dipstick into that goal that we have set? Yeah. So it depends on what is the goal that you have set. So if there is a timeline for that goal, then you have to add reminders to yourself. And I'll just give you a very example. So, I mean, sometimes when I come out of my washroom, I don't, clean the water. So my wife had actually put a sticky note on the mirror saying that every time you wash your hands and looking in the mirror, you will see this, that you have to clean, just push the water away and then come out. So that works as a reminder for me. So I'm taking a very simple one, but like that, whatever you have put, depending on the timeline, you have to add a reminder so that in the scheme of things that you're doing on a daily basis, you will still take out time and you know that, okay, this is something that you have to do. That is how I would look at it. Some messages, reminders, which are positive in nature, which will remind you to stay on track.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right, Shazia is asking, between perfection and progress, which is more important, or which we should work hard? All right, great questions, Shazia. So I would say perfection comes when you are practicing it a lot. Now, the one that you're practicing, if you are practicing the wrong stuff, then you will become perfect in doing the wrong stuff, right? So the focus needs to be doing something in the right fashion so that you become perfect in that way. And that is where you need to have some sounding board, or you need to have some mentors or coaches, especially, I mean, if you are a student, you need to have somebody from the industry that you want to get into and have identify mentors who can help you. And if you are a working professional, then you need to have some coaches in your life who will be able to tell you whether the process that you are following is going to get you to a certain stage. So I would not focus a lot on perfection. I will focus on doing the stuff in the right way. And eventually, by naturally, you will become perfect. That's how I look at it, Shazia. All right. So Zaid is asking, what makes a task or skill fall under the productive category? Is money-making ability the right tool to judge whether an event will be productive? How do I know what I'm doing is productive? Okay. So Zaid, I mean, productivity, it's subjective again, because depending on the situation you are in. So like Jamil was talking about, working in an environment where there are service engineers and the productivity measure there is something else. Whereas for a student, if you ask, the productivity is something else, right? So when you say whether I'm productive or not is something that you have to figure out what is the measure that you're putting in to measure that productivity, right? Now, you also talk about money-making ability. Again, as I said, it is to different people, different things. For instance, if let's say I am doing this session and I am doing it for free because I wanted to contribute to the objective of this group that I'm a part of, right? Now, when I do it for a college, will I do it for free? Maybe not, because college has some commercial interest, right? So it depends, what is it that you will give label as productive? And I would say, I mean, it's philosophical stuff, but every time you can't be doing things only when that yields into money making. Okay. And it has some kind of relation to what Shazia asked about the progress. So like you must have heard, few people do certain things for free initially because they are kind of sharpening their pencil. When you look at a pencil, you know, you need to sharpen, otherwise it gets blunt. So when they do certain things for free, they are basically sharpening their pencil, and they will reach to a point where whatever they have been practicing makes them so perfect that the society is willing to pay them for those services. Right? So I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I just want you to ponder upon this part, that money making is not always productive, in my opinion. It is about the process. Eventually you will make money. Once you get better at it, there are tons of people out there who are willing to pay you. All right. Junaid Khan is saying somehow I don't agree that we can't do multitasking. Okay, great. So it's a perspective, unless if you want to unmute and enlighten everybody about why you feel that or some of the examples, then we can also hear about different views, because the view that I have listed was from my own experiences.
Sir, I have one more question, if you can allow me.
Sure, yes.
Can you enlighten us more on distractions, types of distractions? Today, what is happening is we are not able to focus more because of the, I think, the distractions, I mean, and the negativity around us. How to be far from that negativity? See, today what's happening is, if you wanted to do something, I mean, we have people with a lot of negative thoughts around us. Mm-hmm. So how we can move out of that environment, come to something where we can look forward and
right. So when you say there's a lot of negativity around us now, so what is the environment we are in? So the negative people, let's talk about starting from home, right? If there are some people in the family who are negative, we can't just come out of that situation and say that, all right, I don't want you in my life, right? We can't. We just have to live with that. That is the family. Now, when it comes to work, you work in a team setting and you have other team members, and obviously everybody comes from diverse backgrounds and they have their own set of experiences and they are negative in nature. You have a choice of how much time you are going to invest with that person in terms of having discussions with that person. You have a choice. With friends, I mean, I hope all of us are matured enough that we are not a static snapshot, but we are kind of a dynamic organisms which change over a period of time. Like how you have left your college, some of your school and college friends. Likewise, the current set of friends, if you feel that, okay, this person is imbibing negative stuff, or I'm unnecessarily getting into the discussion. Like, for instance, I'll tell you, I think this is a wonderful strategy that I have applied, and you can apply it as well. At work, I don't talk about religion and politics. Simple. Anybody instigate or tries to drag me into a conversation on religion and politics, I politely say that, okay, I don't want to be a part of it. They will come back and will tell you that, okay, you don't have a perspective, or you don't have the courage to call this, that, and all that. I'll just tell them that, well, be my guest, whatever you want to think, absolutely fine. But I will not lose my ground on getting into anything which is to do with politics and religion. And try this strategy, and you will be a lot better, and people will not bother you. You will not get into discussion. The other bit is, sometimes we ourselves invite those things because you feel so strongly about something. And I'll give you an example. Okay, this happened just like a couple of months back. I think when Charlie Hebdo, I don't know what it was, but it was in Paris. Something happened. And I was just walking towards my house. And there is this eatery. And one guy was telling the owner or his friend, like, so he was trying to talk about one community. And he said, if they have so much of difference, then there are ways they can voice it, but not go about killing people. Okay, I heard it, and I had certain thoughts in my mind, and I actually took a turn to go towards this gentleman and engage myself and enlighten him about some of the things that he might not be aware of. Then I took a step back and I was like, am I invited to the party? I'm not. Then why am I trying to get into it? Nobody has asked me for my perspective. Why should I get? Then I slowly turned towards my home and I came. I saved myself from an unnecessary discussion where I was not invited. Right? So when I'm invited at work, because I know that that is my professional environment and I don't want to be part of it, I'll say no. When I am with my friends, when we want to talk about certain things, I might get into a conversation. At the same time, don't feel so offended when the other person is not agreeing to your view, because all of us have the liberty of believing in certain things. Right? So the best way to kind of come out of negativity is to focus on the bigger cause. I think, unfortunately, most of us are so busy with managing certain things which are immediately in our foresight that we forget to concentrate on the larger stuff which will kind of unfold in future. So as I said, it is not one thing, but it's a combination of a lot of things. So this leads to another dimension where all of us have to ask, what is the reason for my being? What is it that I want to do? What is it that I should be doing? How can I be benefit to the world, to the community, to other people, and all that stuff? So my school's motto, I still very well remember, and I think that is a wonderful motto. It says, learn to serve. So I guess one more thing for all of us is to start asking this question. What is the purpose that you want to have? Once you have the purpose, all this looks nice. Negative people and this distraction, this gaming, this Netflix and sports. I mean, the other day I was talking to somebody at work and he started talking about sports. But this person did not realize He's watching Test cricket 5 days. I don't know, I even completely forgot what are the dynamics in cricket. He spent watching the game 5 days. Now imagine what you can do in those 5 days. So this football, cricket, and all that stuff are the kind of things which are keeping you away from reaching your purpose. Same goes for movies and every recreational stuff. Once in a while is okay, but getting obsessed with a certain thing is not. There needs to be a balance. That's my view.
Thank
And
you.
it was a pretty lengthy stuff, Jamil, but as I said, we have to stitch it to get clarity. All right.
Any specific book you can mention on time management and the same for us to read?
Interesting. I'm just looking at my little library there. And I don't think so I have read any book on time management. Now, I can't recall, but I can tell you about certain books which will help you achieve your goals that you have put in, which is Atomic Habits is one. I am sure some of you might have heard. And then The Power of Habit. These are the two books that I can recommend, especially if you want to get into forming better habits to get to your goal, trying to understand at a deeper level how habits are formed, because both of them have, in a very nicer way, explained the science behind habit formation, which we all might have heard in our schools, but somehow it was not elaborative enough, or it didn't get repeated, because of which we missed the boat. But okay, somebody's asking me to write. So Atomic Habits is one, and the other is Power of Habits. I think James Clear was one, and Duhigg, Charles Duhigg is the other one, the authors. Atomic Habits is a very famous book. Maybe Power of Habits might not be, but Atomic Habits is.
So thank you.
All right, anybody else? Any question? Shad is asking about procrastination. Right. So in simple words, procrastination is when you are putting off things to be done at a later point in time. Right? And why we do that can be explained because there are some other things, other important and urgent things that you are trying to do. So the bigger question that needs to be asked is, do I have to procrastinate it at a later point in time? And in order to answer that question, again, that 4 blocker will come into picture, whether you can delete it. If you are procrastinating it, somewhere you think that it is not important, that is why you want to do it later. But do you have to really do it later, or you can drop it? That is a question that will come out. The other bit is, okay, you don't want to do it. Can you ask your friend or your brother or your team member to do it? Then you can push it. But if it is something is important, the more you procrastinate, it will become urgent and important. So it is as simple as putting it in the box and taking appropriate action. Now, if you ask, okay, but how do I procrastinate? Maybe it has become your habit. You have been procrastinating it, and that is how your neurons are firing, and you are continuously doing. So the only way to do it is stop it. Don't procrastinate. And the tool will help you in not procrastinating, because you'll get clarity of what I should be doing with this task that I have at hand. Because in the mind, if you try and process it, maybe it is difficult. Use that 4 blocker. I'll just mention it here if you guys have forgotten. Eisenhower matrix. You can search online and you will get a lot of literature on this. Yep. Anybody else? Any further question? Okay, Arshad is asking, as we are working from home, how to balance job, family, daily responsibilities, children, and sleep by managing all to reach future goals? Well, this is the biggest challenge, especially when we have young children at home, because job-wise, again, look at the calendar. I mean, if you are using calendar allows you to put your working time. Anything which is in white is your working time, the gray is outside of your work. So if all of us follow a certain shift, you put that shift in your calendar, and anybody who puts a meeting invite, which is outside of that white area into falling into the gray area, you decline and say that, sorry, that is outside of my work, can you reschedule? Okay, that is one part. Now you might say that, okay, when you are junior in your role and your bosses are putting those meetings, then you have to open up and speak to them. You don't have to criticize them for doing that, but you have to politely tell them that your children needs to be put to bed by this time, and you have to finish your dinner or whatever by that time and all, and this will kind of hinder your schedule. So can we do it at a later point in time? So that is usage of your calendar. Now, sleep point of view, again, maybe it is so easy because all our situations are different. When if you have somebody who is not well in the family, you have to kind of provide that nursing bit. It's very difficult to manage time. However, if you don't have any such situation at home, then putting a particular time for sleep and getting up at the regular time, so this cycle in our body also makes it easy for us to follow a pattern. So again, it is about the continuity of it. So when you attend such sessions, you will be inspired, right? Yes, I will take charge of my life. But you will go back to your previous ways of doing things, again, because of our faulty walnut that we carry in our head, which is our brain. Now listen to this very carefully for you to analyze. I'll take you back into your, thousands of years back when all of us used to live in caves. Right? You and I, or our ancestors, were cavemen or cave women. Huh? So imagine when you are in a setting like that, you came across something, a fruit or an animal that you can eat. So when you eat, it is kind of a reward that you get, right? When you eat, the reward, the satisfaction that you have been able to address your hunger. Now, in those days, our brain appreciated something which was in front of us. Then what was coming at a later point in time? Because the world was so uncertain, we didn't know if we are going to get food for lunch or dinner, because there might be some other wild animal which will come and eat you off. So we have lived in that environment for millions of years. This technology evolution, whatever we are talking about, is just, probably 100 or 200 years. But just go back millions of years, our brain is so used to immediate rewards than delayed rewards. Because it doesn't know whether it's going to come or not. There is uncertainty, right? So it takes time. If you start making some changes in your life after this session, you are not going to see the rewards immediately. It is going to happen over a period of time. So when you know that it is not going to take place now, in spite of that, you need to continue doing it. And then it becomes a part of your habit. And you'll go to sleep at the right time, you'll get up on right time, you'll be able to manage everything. So there's this question, how do you manage your time? So as I said, there are pockets. So I go to bed at the same time every day, half an hour here and there, but I don't go to bed at like 11 o'clock in the night. 9:30, the lights are off in the house, everybody goes to sleep. And 6 o'clock, we get up and I read. As soon as I get up, after freshening up, I read for an hour. And then I have my breakfast and I start my work exactly at 9. I log in at 9 and I close myself in a room. Wife and kid don't disturb me at all. And then I have blocked, or in fact, in our company, luckily for all HR professionals, we have blocked 1 to 2 p.m. for lunch. And my wife knows that that is the time for lunch. I shut down my laptop at 1. I'm not available on Skype or Microsoft Teams or whatever. I have my lunch and nobody can block that time for any meeting because they already see the calendar is blocked. I finish my lunch, I go back and until 6:30 I work, and exactly at 6:30 I shut down my laptop. And my boss knows, even now on Saturday and Sunday, some people have the habit of opening their laptop and you will not realize something will be there and it needs your attention and you have to do it. So I don't log in. I don't have on my phone, I don't have my emails configured, no Teams, no Skype. And I don't work on weekends. Rather, I do these things on weekends, wherein I take out time for family, friends. After this session, I'm going to catch up with a friend. And in the night, I have dinner with my parents. So you have to put boxes, you have to put timelines and stick to that. And not that every time I am successful in doing it. Yes, there are some times where I am unable to do it. But that doesn't mean that just because one time I am unable to do it, I'll go back into that routine. That can be an exception because life is not, linear stuff. There are so many variables in our life. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but majority of the time it needs to be like that. And this happens when you manage your time properly. Like, now you might say that, okay, you might be getting a lot of requests to do these sessions. Yes, I do. and I decide which ones I want to do and which ones I don't want to do. So I tell them that, sorry, I can't do it. Like just before this session, I was on another call led by Foundation. I don't know how many of you know, but there's some great work that is happening on the upliftment of Muslim women, especially. So I was talking to them and they wanted me to do something on 18th of September, whereas I'm not in town. So I said, sorry, I did not cancel my plans because I have to do this, because that thing is more important to me. So plan it out, have a calendar. I mean, in fact, I requested the lady that, can you please send that on my professional calendar, because I don't want to manage my personal calendar and my professional calendar. I rather would like to manage my entire week on just one calendar. So I have not the work week view, but I have the complete week view, and I know what is coming. Like today, if I am here exactly at 11 o'clock, is primarily because I saw it in my calendar that, okay, I have to take out time for this session. So maintain calendars. If you're not working, if you're a student, still, I think phone provides you a lot of options. So plot it properly. Delete something which is not important. You don't have to be a part of every discussion. For people who are working, sometimes you get copied on some meetings, and the person who's sending you that meeting invite probably doesn't know your role, and you don't have to necessarily join. If you don't want to be polite by clicking on that decline button, just say tentative and say that if time permits, I'll join. Right? So again, it brings back to, okay, where is your focus? What is it that you want to do? I think somewhere we all want to do and be good at everything. We want to be good in terms of this, we want to be good at that, we want to be good at that. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Take it bit by bit, one at a time, and eventually as a whole, you will be better. Okay. All right. What else? I think this is for 12:30. So we have 7 minutes. You schedule your task on a daily or a weekly basis, Zayed. Okay, Zayed, it is on a weekly basis. It is very difficult to do it on a daily basis because, as I said, this request came to me like 2-3 weeks back, and I kind of put it on my calendar. So week-wise it works, and sometimes I even look at it month-wise as well. Because as I said, you need to work backwards. So if I have a view of what my commitments are for the rest of the month, I will be able to manage it well. So not daily, weekly, most of the time, just a step ahead, monthly also. Thank you, Jamil. Thank you for your reflections. Anybody else, any questions? Because you have to manage your time now, then thinking about managing your time later. You all will grow in your ranks, in your roles, and everybody will be looking for your attention. So the more you learn to manage your time now, get the clarity in your mind, what is important for you at this stage of your life, then it will become easier. And if you look at any person that you feel is successful, because again, in success, I have a different opinion about success. I think it's a more of psychosocial phenomena, because psycho is you are thinking in your head that if I earn 2 lakhs per annum, then I'm successful. And socio is what the society has been saying. Like, okay, if you drive a BMW car, then you are successful. So success is very, subjective and socio phenomena. But if you look up to somebody and you feel in your terms that that person is successful, then I'm sure that person has managed the available time in their hand by doing things which are productive for them, and they get it validated by others who are in the similar field. Then they are on the right path. They inch by inch, they'll get closer to it. And then they move on to some other. So goals are also something which we should not be so stuck upon, like, okay, I have to achieve it. If your life situation has changed and that goal is not making sense, absolutely okay to drop it and then look at what is that is going to be relevant for you. Yep. Thank you, Umera, for your reflections. Okay, we have 3 more minutes. And you're talking about the concept of time. So in order for us to remain within the time, okay, Himanshu is asking, what if we make the calendar or schedule but can't follow it due to some reason, how to manage ups and downs? As I said, Himanshu, yes, absolutely. I mean, life is full of uncertainties. You put up something on a calendar, you might not be able to follow. You don't have to beat yourself up for not following it. Rather, dwell into why you didn't follow. Now, is it something because of your lethargic nature, because of which you didn't follow? Or was it something which was beyond your control that you were unable to follow? If it was something beyond your control, you just have to appreciate that life is not always about being in control. You can't do much about it. So now this brings back to what Stephen Covey said. I mean, this guy wrote a very nice book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He calls circle of concern and circle of influence. So if you have put up something on calendar and you were unable to follow it, and if you keep on concerning about it, you will go nowhere. But whereas the circle of influence is when you have come to the conclusion that, yes, this was outside of my control, then you will start focusing on, okay, what is it that I need to be doing for the ones that I missed out on? Then that is influence. Influence is always backed up by an action, whereas concern is always a worry which will get you nowhere. So it's okay if things didn't work out the way you planned. But your intention and the repetitions needs to be there so that you don't miss out on the end objective. All right. Okay, thank you for that confirmation, Himanshu. So we are right on time. So I don't know if Saif Abrar is here. I think he lost.
Ji Sajjad sir, very attentively here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair, Sajjad bhai. It was really very useful and very insightful for all of us. And it will definitely help us going forward. And looking forward to your more useful sessions in future, inshallah.
Sure. So thank you for having me. And as I said, thank you everyone for taking out time on Sunday afternoon to listen to this. And as I said, you might not remember everything that we spoke, but there might be 1 or 2 things that you might have picked. Just follow it and have the trust in yourself and the journey. And I'm sure you will reach whatever you have planned your life for. Yep. All the best.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.